We're here at St Brigid's well on the hill of Faughart, a site that has for centuries been referred to as the place of birth of St Brigid, although there are people in Offaly who might debate that. In any case, the locals here, they refer to Brigid not as St Brigid of Kildare, but St Brigid of Faughart. In the popular mindset in Ireland today, she's often associated with the pre-Christian goddess Brigid, and very often it's presumed that they were one and the same, or that the pagan goddess became in some sense a Christian saint. But in actual fact, the real St Brigid is a very historical person indeed. She's not some shady figure from mythology. We know a good deal about her. She was born around the middle of the 5th century, and so she belongs to the earliest generation of Irish Christians. And although we don't have any contemporary sources about her, she founded a monastery, a double monastery for monks and nuns in Kildare, that just about 100 years after her death commissioned a life to be written about her, a biography. Really, it's a collection of miracles about her, but it gives us some information about her life as well. What's significant though is that this community in Kildare knew that she was their founder. They wanted to honour her. She wasn't some kind of a myth to them. She was a very living memory. It's in this life, which was written by a man called Cogitosus, that we read some of the most famous stories about her, some of the ones we all know and love. How she milked one cow 3 times in one day to feed 3 bishops. How she found a fox to bring to a king whose pet fox had died, and this wild fox knew all the same tricks as the other fox did. How she found a secret store of honey, a beehive under the floorboards, just in time to give to a beggar who was asking for honey. Already by the 8th century, her feast is being celebrated as far as Luxembourg, and her relics are being venerated in the Abbey of St Maurice in Switzerland. So clearly, Kildare, the monastery that she founded, was a place where monasticism was thriving and was sending its influence and stories about its founder, Brigid, out to the world beyond. They might have told the occasional tall tale about her, but she herself was no myth. Brigid's story might have begun in this place in Faughart, but there are places across the Irish landscape that are named after her. There are wells especially, just like this St Brigid's well, in Galway, in Westmeath, in Kildare. Even the Bridewell in London is named after her. St Bride was the anglicised version of St Brigid. It's worth thinking though about the significance of these wells. Why should Christians be interested in wells and in water? Well, if you've ever attended the Easter Vigil or attended a baptism, you will have heard the blessing of the water there, and the way in which the priest in that blessing goes through all the ways in which God delivered salvation to his people by means of water. And so there's mention of the Spirit hovering over the waters at the moment of creation. There's mention of the flood which renewed the earth, as well of the people of Israel who passed through the Red Sea on their way from slavery into freedom, and the water that sprung forth from the dry rock in the desert to quench their thirst. Jesus himself was baptized in the waters of the River Jordan, and after his resurrection he sends out his apostles to baptize all nations in water and the Spirit. St Brigid, of course, in her monastic life would have meditated on all these scenes from Scripture, all the ways in which water figured in the story of salvation. She would have seen water not only as a natural reality, but also as a vivid symbol, a reminder of God's saving work. And yes, Cogitosus in his life of Brigid does tell us one story involving water. A leper arrived at Brigid's door looking for beer, but Brigid had no beer to offer them. She did find some water that was there being prepared for a bath, and so she called down God's blessing on the water, and the water was transformed into beer, and not just beer, but the finest of beer. Cogitosus adds at this point in the story, "It was indeed he who turned water into wine in Cana, who turned water into beer here, through this most blessed woman's faith."